It is time once again for another AEW Dynamite review here on the MrWarrenHayes Show channel with Juno just barely in frame. She's right here. Hi, hello, and I'm Warren. We're going to be doing a review of last night's AEW Dynamite, the February 19 edition of Dynamite, which just so happened to follow my birthday. I have officially entered the half century. I took the first foot forward. Last year I just turned 50. Now I'm officially in my 50s. So that's no longer, I'm 50. No, now I'm in my 50s. It's a whole other ball game. Cannot wait for my AARP card. Go to the zoo on a discount. Hell yeah. Discounted, discounts to go to the museum every day of the week, regardless when you go, not just on Tuesdays or whatever. Every day you go there, and it's, let's be honest, there's a lot of privileges, and I'm kidding. I sound like I'm kidding, I should say, but I am really into the zoo, and I am really into museums. I fucking love museums. I can't get enough of museums. There's got to be stuff to look forward to once you hit this age. So there you go. You sort of take the wins where you can. Do I look okay? I have no idea how I look today. I just grabbed my stuff. I have a very busy day. Might as well just get to it. But it's I'm a very, and I just slap some things together, put on my hat. I have no idea if I look goofy or if everything's all right. Last week, I had a strand of hair that was poking out here for the majority of the video, and it fucking annoyed me. But anyway, look at look, I'm filming this with my phone, and I'm not doing it with the in selfie mode, so I can get the best resolution possible for the. These are, no, I can't see myself. All I see is my phone. These are the problems. These are the issues I go through. These are the problems that I have to deal with to provide quality criticism of professional wrestling products. This is the reality that we live in. But yeah, look, so yes, yesterday was my birthday. Today's the 20th. I record this on Thursday. So yeah, essentially this is what we're doing. We were in Phoenix, Arizona yesterday with Dynamite at the Arizona Financial Theater. Interesting venue, which I really didn't hate. I thought it was pretty cool. Very good crowd on top of that. I think it's I like the venue, but I think it could have been shot better. And I don't have an answer for how it could have been shot better. I think, I think it would have really forced the team to rethink how they shoot pro wrestling. But, it's what would they have done exactly? Well, I don't know. I'm not a production expert. I don't, roll in that field. That's not something that I do for a living. So I couldn't tell you exactly what they could have done, because when we got the shots of the entire arena, theater in this case, right? And you had you got the shots of the balcony, and you had all the ground, the ground level just full, in that great semicircle. It's wow, this is actually really rad. This is cool. And you couldn't exactly see, with the way things were shot, it was difficult to see how much the crowd was getting into the show as well. So it's a weird one where they did what? Yesterday, as of yesterday, WrestleTix was reporting 2,966 tickets distributed. This is not the final count, so there'll likely be over 3,000 people in the venue, in this debut in the venue. So it's not as if the venue was empty. It's the opposite. There were a lot of people that were there, and the capacity is 4,840. So what are the amount of kills that you have to do for production and whatnot? I couldn't tell you. I don't know. But this was not an empty venue, and it's unfortunate because the way it was shot, it did feel like there was a void at some points, right? So What could they have done to shoot it differently? I couldn't tell you. I'm still waiting for a professional wrestling outfit in North America to shoot wrestling on TV in a way that is different than was established by Nitro all the way back in the early 90s. Like, when you think about it, we still have not changed the formula on how to present professional wrestling on television in North America since. It's always been the Nitro way, which is kind of wild when you think that now, this is literally 3 decades ago. So, if I had the solution, like if I had figured it out, I'd share with you. I'd even, I'd send an email to AEW and say, hire me. I got the plans. I have the ideas, but I don't know how to do it. Maybe this could have been an interesting, maybe this could have been a good opportunity to try something different in how the show is presented. But no, we got the same, we got the usual fare, which is fine. But I feel like if something a little more daring had been tried out, we could have gotten an entirely different experience while captivating the energy of this crowd, which was really good. The Phoenix crowd was really, really good, and were very hype when it was announced that, it had been announced earlier in the day, but they were very hype when Justin Roberts said, hey, by the way, we're coming back for a pay-per-view in May. Double or Nothing is going to be in Arizona, and they, went kind of bonkers for it. Speaking of which, first time that Double or Nothing will not be in Las Vegas. I think it's a smart move. You can have whatever opinion you want on it. You can, chalk it up to whatever, tribalistic reasons you want to create in your brain for it. It just makes good business sense to not run a major wrestling show like a month and a half after WrestleMania just, barged in through town, right? It's not as if Mania comes in, with a couple of production trucks. Everyone, let's unload the ring and, sets things up. And it's like this neat little mom and pop shop outfit type of thing, You know what I'm trying to say? No, WrestleMania comes in with all the subtlety of an invasion, right? Of an invasion force. So, I think that that's the smartest thing to do for this time around. There was no need to try and compete and, run the regular venue and then pack in 3,000 people. And that would have been just absolutely embarrassing. No, I think this is a good idea. And the Phoenix crowd seemed very excited about it. I'm excited for them as well. I'm sure that they're going to have some very joyful people in the audience checking all of that out. So for the pay-per-view, so good for them. It's good times, and I think it was an announcement that made a lot of sense. So yeah, I guess that's a bit of the business aspect of it all that we've just covered here. We said it, just shy of 3,000 according to WrestleTix. Shy of 3,000 tickets distributed, but that's as of yesterday. We haven't had the final count yet, so we'll have to see. Was selling really good in the last couple of days, which is a trend for AEW shows. And until it becomes a super hot product again, this is exactly what you should do. By the way, this is the strategy. Don't buy your tickets on the first day unless you really, really want ringside tickets and you want this best spot here at ringside. Just wait till the day before, 2 days, the day before, and you get a really good discount, and it's tremendous. So there you go. Let's get into the show then. It is a show, last night's Dynamite. It is a show that was objectively good, but that failed to really like captivate and grab me. But I can, it's weird, right? So like I sit back and I look at the show and I'm like, there's nothing really wrong about what's going on, right? There's nothing really wrong happening here. And then there's stuff that I liked on it. And I'm like, okay, this is good. There's a lot of stuff that I thought was good. But ultimately, in the spots that it mattered the most, in my opinion, which, oddly enough, as opposed to how Michael Cole feels about WWE now, the spots that matter the most are the pro wrestling matches. That's where it matters the most. And on that front, I felt very, I don't want to say indifferent. That's not the right word. But I felt very nonplussed. I saw some perfectly competent professional wrestling, and it didn't exactly succeed in anything, in arousing any big feelings in me. If that makes sense. And I thought it was a show that was actually kind of light on the pro wrestling as well. 4 matches that tallied up to a quantity of pro wrestling that was under 45 minutes. That was under 45 minutes, which is extremely unusual for a Dynamite. And but there were some very WWE like stuff happening on the show, and I know a lot of people don't like it when we make these comparisons and that point it out and say, well, there's a very WWE-ish thing, but there were a few of them on the show, notably the opener. One of the things when I used to watch WWE regularly, and whether especially when I was doing it for Fightful and was called in to review, one of the things that I would constantly bemoan is the amount of time it takes before we actually get to some in-ring wrestling. Because it always opens up with the promo. They would always start up with a 10-minute thing happening. And then you'd get the really egregious moments where if you have like some of the top guys, the top guys, then they'll have these really extended promo segments, right? They'll last over 2/4 hours. And you're like, what the fuck are we doing here? Can't we just watch some wrestling? And what we get, and that's exactly what we got last night. That's exactly how this show started, with 2 guys having a promo segment that eventually led to the first match starting, like entrances done, bell ringing, starting at 29 minutes into the broadcast. 29 minutes of this show without an iota of professional wrestling. No, not a single collar and elbow. Not even a smattering of Irish whips. Nothing. And I have to call it out, or else I am going to be a hypocrite if I don't. And I have to call this out, and I have to say why. And look, here's the thing. I like the MJF Hangman Page stuff. I like it a lot. I think there's a lot of good to come out that can come out of it, and is turning into one of the hottest matches for Revolution, which is going to be a very well-built card, by the way. But we're not going to get into that specifically right here. I'm just wondering why we needed to monopolize so much time on the card for this. I know a lot of people will say, you could have put a women's match. Sure, you could have put anything in this spot to try and change, to advance another storyline. Even if it's a tiny little mid-card thing that you can advance for Revolution, then at least that's what you get, right? It was baffling to me. And here's the dichotomy within which I live the tortured soul that is Warren Hayes, I liked the promo. I thought they were doing some good material, MJF and Hangman, right? My only complaint is that it went too long, and not necessarily just because we should have got to action sooner, right? Because there was no reason to really start the show with this, right? What was the reason that we absolutely had to start the show this week with a promo as opposed to starting up with the match and following it up with Hangman and MJF? But I'm digressing a little bit. I liked this a lot. I thought, and to come back to my point, I thought it could have been shorter, if only because I thought the content dragged a little bit. Not anything disastrous. Definitely not on the level of the disasters that happened recently with MJF and Jeff Jarrett, for instance. But nonetheless, still had a bit of still went a little long in the tooth. I think it could have benefited from being a little more succinct. But I liked what we were doing here. And this is what we were doing here. I have my whole notes here, right? I broke down everything. And I'm like, am I really going to break down everything? No, because you probably have seen the promo. And if not, you should go back and watch it. I don't think you want me to recap line for line what was being said. But I'll tell you why this was good. Because that's kind of what you're here for. You want some analyses. So I'll give you the analyses. I thought this was good because it served to bring things back to an essence of what AEW is, what it was, and what the future represents. These are two guys who are day oneers, and two guys you can point to as being synonymous with AEW. I think, no one disputes the Hangman as being the protagonist of the company. It was even brought up in the promo, where he's like the main character, right? And MJF being a top guy there, and the top heel on top of that, So I don't think anyone can really look at that and say, I don't know about these two guys. Like, it's the complete opposite of the discourse with Adam Copeland in the main event trying to fight for AEW, right? It's the complete opposite. You're like, yeah, these are the guys. These are the guys. So we're bringing this back to something that feels comfortable, that feels good, that feels like AEW, if that makes sense. It's something that absolutely feels like this is what the company should be doing, should be focusing on its own people, its own stars, on guys that really should be mixing it up with each other, because these are the people who got us into the company and carried us within the company in the first place. And they're diving into the history, right? Both Paige and MJF, well, mostly MJF, when he starts talking about, look, and going all the way back to 2019 and saying, you cheap shotted me, kept me from getting the first big title shot, right? And Paige is like, yeah, that's right. And MJF, recounts all his accolades. He goes down a usual path that MJF goes down. And I loved how Paige was like, why are you telling me all of this? I know who you are. Why? and it sort of dawns on you that MJF's long-winded promos, where he always seems to rehash the same old stuff, is a kind of a mechanism of his insecurities, where he always has to rehash these points because he has to feel good about himself, and he has to continuously prove to the audience that, I am a top guy here. And Paige is like, why are you doing this? I know who you are. These people know who you are. And then we go down the tangent of the insecurities. And these are absolutely the two most insecure professional wrestlers in the company. And I mean that from a story angle, I don't know either of them personally. But this is absolutely what we're doing. Like, Hangman's whole thing before, he got the mustache was that he, that was his whole thing. The anxious millennial cowboy, right? MJF, his whole shtick is that he's insecure. We're bringing stuff back from the Punk feud. We're re-injecting the reasons, the motivations that push these characters forward. For good or ill, it was the motivation for MJF to trust Adam Cole and the whole brochacho nonsense, because MJF never had any friends, and he never really opened up. He never felt vulnerable, and he was able to do that with Adam Cole, which, like I said, for good or ill, that was the thing here. So essentially, they go off on each other. They bring back some history. They attack each other's personalities, their insecurities and all of this. And I enjoyed this. I thought it was good, if only a little long. And like I said, not just long because of the actual length, but because the content just felt a little thin at some points, which is, it seems to be like a constant critique that I have of Max and his whatever promos he's involved in. I feel like he stretches things out a little too much, and I think he could benefit from being a little concise. And it all ends with them, squaring up on each other. Security comes in to sort of to try and keep them from going at each other. Paige then provokes MJF, who just turns away in defiance, because there was a whole thing like, if there are officials here, and if anyone gets physical, well, there's gonna be fines and whatever the fuck, right? There were reasons that they weren't beating down on each other. MJF sort of walks away, and then he hawks a loogie on Paige, who just stands there with the fucking, with the drip, with the DNA just like on his face, and you're kind of like, that's really disgusting. Go beat his ass, kind of thing. And he goes for it, but security prevents him, and then Christopher Daniels shows up to keep Paige from going after MJF as well. Now, one thing that we should mention is that during the promo, Daniels is brought up, and we're adding a lot more gravitas to the idea of Hangman Page having ended his career, of having beaten him, and severely, to the point that in kayfabe, of course, Christopher Daniels is so injured that he can never wrestle again, and we're really leaning into when MJF brings him up during the promo, Page fires up and delivers a very impassioned, you almost say eulogy, but a eulogy is not the right word. A highly complimentary overview of Christopher Daniels' career, which was really good. And Paige was really fired up for that too. So that was also really interesting. So when Daniels shows up, he comes into the ring, and Paige, sees him, and it sort of calms him down, or Daniels, successfully calms him down. But they talk off mic, they have the camera mics pick up Daniels saying, this is who you are, right? This is what you're used to, this is what you should be fighting for, kind of thing. And it only annoyed me because the off-camera monologues is really, again, a fucking WWE thing that they've been really leaning into, and that has also led to me being very annoyed in multiple circumstances. So, I have no faith that this was a one and done, that they're not going to be using this more. I think they are going to be using this more, because they saw, they used it so much. They in WWE used it so much during the Bloodline that it's like, oh, what a successful, what a great little way to tell a story. It's something that I'm not looking forward to seeing more of in AEW. I really don't care for it. I don't care about mid-match monologues. I think they take away from a match, because I'm not dumb enough to need someone to explain to me mid-match why the match is happening and why it's going this way. because I understand, I understand fucking pro wrestling. Like, here's the thing. We fans, and when I say we, I sort of exclude myself from that. I'm kidding, but not really. Fans have to stop pretending that professional wrestling is this high form of art. Now, I will acquiesce that it is a form of performance art. That I completely get it, right? And I'm on board with that. But we have to stop pretending that this lowest common denominator type of storytelling is actually some higher form of intelligent, thought-provoking art, commentary, whatever you want to call it, right? It's like these people who tried to convince me back in the day that retribution, that WWE was going to explore, all of the all the social unrest that's happening right now through retribution. When in fact, when you've watched wrestling for more than like 7 minutes, you know that a thing like retribution was brought in because you had all the riots happening and you had all these visuals of guys and gals running around with hoodies over their head and all dressed in dark and smashing windows. They're not interested in replicating or exploring the reasons as to why this is happening. We're just pulling up images that scare middle America so that we can put it on TV. And they're like, oh yeah, these are the fucking bad guys. These are the guys who are on TV wrecking up cities all across the country. It's the same thing with Sergeant Slaughter when he became a traitor to the United States and joined the Iraqis back in the fucking 90s. It's not because we suddenly that WWE was about to explore all the intricacies of the Iraq War and what it would mean for an American occupation of the region. No, it's just imagery that elicits emotions in middle America that then people that then WWE exploits to make the thing happen, to create storylines, to be able to put on wrestling matches that will sell tickets so people will come see the wrestling match or people tune in on TV to watch. Now, why was I saying all of this? Oh yeah, the point is, right, wrestling is not high art, and we have to stop pretending that it's high art, and that when there's these in-ring monologues going on, that it's like this shivers storytelling. I can get shivers and storytelling watching two guys beat the piss out of each other for 25 minutes. Just like I did not that long ago with New Japan, looking at Hiroki Goto and Zack Sabre Jr. I understood the story that they were telling, and I'm not a fucking idiot. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not trying to say that because I'm like so smarter than everyone else. It's fucking pro wrestling. You can understand pro wrestling with 3 brain cells. I'm nothing special. I'm not like this incredible erudite who has this deep comprehension of how pro wrestling is put together. It's pro wrestling. It's pro wrestling. I'm self-conscious enough to understand how fucking goofy one of my favorite hobbies is, which is to watch pro wrestling. I understand it. I feel comfortable enough in that because I have the self-awareness to not have to pretend that it's this elevated form of art that we're moving forward. It's fucking pro wrestling, dude. Anyway, big sidebar. Back to the angle. I really liked how the angle was concluded. On top of that, I thought it was a good way to finish it off. I enjoyed it. I thought, like I said, I think overall the segment was too long for what AEW should be offering in 2025. And I wish they stopped trying to do WWE isms and just stuck to doing what they do best. But given what we were given, I think it was just a little too long in the tooth, but otherwise really interesting. And this is one of the best put together feuds that they have right now. And it's really been well built. There's so much stuff that is well built in AEW recently. Like, really. It's been really well built, and it's going to be one of the matches that I am most looking forward to at Revolution. You know, when you think about it, okay, like right now, we've got Hangman versus MJF, which is great. We've got Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher in a cage. And then Konosuke Takeshita and Kenny Omega for the international title. It really does feel they're padding out the rest of the card to make up for the main event. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. It may not be the case, but it might also very much be the case. All right, let's move on. We've spent more than enough time on that one. Holy shit. Undisputed Kingdom are backstage. Roderick Strong cuts his promo, still doing the I scream my opponent's name at the top of my lungs to begin with, but, like he did with Adam. That's like Orange. And they address the fact that Kyle O'Reilly and Orange Cassidy are pals. And, Kyle O'Reilly says something to the effect Orange Cassidy is my friend. Orange Cassidy is my boy, but Roddy's my guy. Right? The Ops, which is the trio of Samoa Joe, Katsuyori, Shibata, and Hook, defeated the Patriarchy trio of Christian Cage, Nick Wayne, and Kip Sabian. Ding, my notebook appears. This is like I said, this match started 29 minutes into the show, which is, again, crazy to me. Nick Wayne in this match eats a shitload of chops. And I'm sure it was his pleasure because, he's kind of a sicko. I kind of wonder when we're going to actually do something cool with Nick Wayne. I'm just throwing that out there. But he gets beat up in this good little match. Ops overtake the Patriarchy. And I like the finish where Hook catches Nick Wayne, who's coming off the top with the Wayne's World move. Hook catches him with a red rum, and you've got Kip Sabian that is being handled by Katsuyori Shibata. So Samoa Joe is in the ring, and Christian Cage sort of starts sliding into the ring, but Samoa Joe sort of, swaggers his way towards him, and Christian Cage hits the bricks like he doesn't even have the opportunity. He doesn't even give himself the opportunity to try and go save his son. There you go. Good little match. I'd give it like a 3.25. I don't know. It was fine. Entertaining. I'm enjoying Samoa Joe at this stage of his career where, like, he seems completely like everything he does is just out of enjoyment now. He just like beats people up and he has a big grin on his face, and I kind of like this character. But listen, I gotta share something that's on my mind. And it's terrifying me. And I talked about it a little bit on the Grand Slam review, which is available right now on the MrWarrenHayes Show podcast if you haven't heard it yet. But I just got to share this thought here because it really does frighten me. Have you considered the possibility that that Adam Copeland just might be winning the AEW World Championship off of Jon Moxley at Revolution? And that once he does, Christian Cage is going to come in and cash in his contract and win the title off of Adam Copeland, doing exactly what they did with the TNT title and continuing their own little feud. Have you thought about that? And I'm going to tell you, with the way Christian Cage has been portrayed as being like this sniveling geek, who just wants to stay out of doesn't want to get physical, tries his best to get away from everything these days. Kind of feels like they're setting us up for something. And I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And there was a time I wouldn't even consider this because I'd be like, there's no way AEW is going to do that kind of shit. It's not the same company anymore. I'm not sure they wouldn't not do that. Double negatives. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not excited about the prospect. Look, I'm not sitting here in glee. I'm just, look, it's just something I got to, I think there's still better things to do with Jon Moxley as AEW champion, but Anyway, Renee Paquette is interviewing Chris Jericho backstage. Jericho asks, she's being a little flippant with him, and Jericho takes offense to that. And, he's wondering if he's not being a little too nice now, because people are, he feels that people are getting a little too comfortable with Chris Jericho. Anyway, he announces that Bandito will get a title shot against him on Collision, I believe this week, because Bandito pinned Chris Jericho in a multi-man match with the 21 Plex. And it kind of feels like Chris Jericho is moving on to something else now. I think he feels like the learning tree has run its course, and now he's getting a little angrier, a little more pissed off. I think we're starting to see the reinvention of Chris Jericho into something else, and I know it's going to piss off a lot of people, and it is what it is. I kind of think it's funny. Powerhouse Hobbs defeated Big Bill in a street fight. This was an extremely well-built TV feud. I was very excited to see this match, and I gotta tell you, I was a little let down. Because look, the match is fine. I didn't think it was anything special. Like it's one of these classic plunder matches. I was ready to give this match a 2 3/4 stars until Bill got thrown off the stairs, on top of the stage through barbed wire table. Then it's like, this is at least a 3. I'm not gonna, like, now it's like I'm gonna elevate it a little bit, but. The match that I was hoping for was these two guys just being insanely brutal with each other, right? Because I feel like part of what they were building was, look at how strong I am. Oh, no, look at how strong I am. Oh, look at how strong I am, right? They were doing all sorts of little strength contests and stuff like that. And, I was kind of weirded out when they decided to do a street fight. I'm like, oh, well, maybe it'll get a little crazy, but it didn't get that crazy. And ultimately ended up disappointing me. I feel like the plunder aspect of the match really got in the way of us being able to truly appreciate and enjoy two huge dudes wailing on each other. That's what we should have got, and that's not what we got. Instead, we're trying to, use trash cans and, the usual stuff. I don't know. It didn't quite do it for me, but Hobbs got the win, which is significant. Probably this feud is done. I don't think it has to continue. I don't think so anyway. It is what it is, but ultimately I think this match is the execution of it, or the booking of it, I should say, is disappointing. Brian Cage and Lance Archer are backstage with Renee, and they call out the Hurt Syndicate to discuss a title match on Collision. That's the kind of shit that I'm excited about. And then they do the announcement, as we mentioned earlier, of Justin Roberts saying that Double or Nothing is going to be in Arizona. Toni Storm comes out to do a victory speech. And she comes out, she's in a very pretty glittery dress with some wonderful pearls, and she's got the AEW title and women's world title, I should say. And she hits the ring, and she's got the spotlight on her, just one white shower right on top of her. And she delivers a great promo. She delivers a legitimately great promo. Now, I know recently her shtick has been, including all of these, like she includes all these vulgar references, yet while trying to remain classy, while remaining the classy allure, which I think is really an interesting dichotomy. And to me, it's probably the most interesting that this whole Timeless Toni Storm gimmick has been, because I like, this fine line that you can argue that she's always done it, and I agree. But now, I feel she's really leaning into it. She had done it in a couple of promos and a couple of segments before Grand Slam, and now she, there's no doubt here, right? She calls herself the whore you all adore. Let's run down a couple of these lines here. The whore you all adore, the slut you can't rebuff, and the tramp who is your new champ. Those are some good lines. Slut you can't rebuff. It's the weaker of the three. If we're picking them apart, the slut you can't rebuff, but the whore you all adore, the tramp who is now champ, you gotta love those. She calls Mariah May a sick bitch, but praises her for the fight she put up. And then she delivers this incredible line, maybe in contention for Pro Wrestling Promo of the Year, just because of this line. She talks about how she defeated Mariah May with a small package. And she says, the thing about my package is that Mariah May should have worn protection because she railed her with the biggest package she's ever seen. Again, tremendous. She says that Mariah's been exiled and compromised to a permanent end. I guess she's dead. Does a little plug for the Queen of the Ring movie, which was very astute, and then opens up the challenge and says, I'm ready to fight only the best. Kris Statlander, Willow Nightingale, Wendy Richter. And she ends by saying, God is a woman and her name is timeless. Honest to fucking God, this is always how Toni Storm should promo. I think we've reached a point with the timeless gimmick that just doing backstage skits and pretending that she's a movie star and whatnot is getting a little exhausted. This is it feels like a new layer where we're combining Toni Storm the wrestler and the gimmick into something that feels more closer to what pro wrestling is. And I really like this. And this is probably my favorite Timeless Toni Storm stuff that she's done as far as the gimmick goes. This was really good. I don't know who needs to hear this, but this was really good. And she should promo more like this. It was legitimately tremendous. So it's great stuff. I liked it. If this is the tangent that we're going with Toni Storm, I'm all for it. We're going to have to sort of speed things up here, right? We get an announcement that Gabe Kidd is heading to Collision this week, which I think is hilarious. Gabe Kidd, whose whole thing is shitting on AEW, is going to show up on AEW. It's tremendous. I love it. I fucking love Gabe Kidd. Renee Paquette is with Willow Nightingale, and she says, I want my interview time because Jon Moxley comes in and interrupts me all the time. And then what happens? Jon Moxley with Marina Shafir come in and beat the shit out of, Marina Shafir beats the shit out of Willow. And that leads us to Jon Moxley heading to the ring to cut a promo. He declares himself champion of the world, meaning everything in the arena belongs to him. The seats, the people, everything. He says nobody lays down a challenge to him like there's somebody like the rated R superstar. And he says, I think Adam Copeland is still dead in Australia or whatever the fuck. And he says, if he shows up at Revolution, I'm going to finish the job. Jay White comes in, which I still don't understand why Jay White does this. Jay White is smarter than this. Like, the dumb babyface thing for Jay White doesn't work. Now, I know he came in with a plan here. He still came in alone and risked getting beat up. It's still 2-on-2 when Adam Copeland eventually shows up. It's a 2-on-4, excuse me. I'm like, where's FTR? isn't FTR supposed to be involved in this in some way, shape, or form? Ultimately doesn't really matter because Adam Copeland drags Moxley into the they start fighting. There's no dragging really. Copeland spears Wheeler Yuta. Claudio gets faked out of a Blade Runner into a spear, and Copeland then gets his toothbrush from under his hairbrush. Actually, have you seen this man's hair? I think Spike is his comb. I think that's what it is. And Mox runs away, and Cope goes into the audience, calls Mox a coward with no nuts, no guts, and no spine. And he says that now until Revolution, he's going to take out all the Goon Squad one by one. So, yeah. I'm still at the same spot with this. Doesn't change much. Mercedes Moné is backstage with Renee, and she responds to Momo Watanabe, who was at in Australia, who outright challenged, who ended up challenging Mercedes Moné for the TBS title. Mercedes like, okay, it's whatever. If she wants to challenge me, she can challenge me in person, is what she says. So Momo's going to be on AEW TV at some point. And frankly, like, I'm all for this, right? And when I say at some point, probably in the next couple of days, because Momo challenged her for Revolution, and quite frankly, look, Mercedes versus the Joshi girls is always like, it's a sure thing. Megan Bayne defeated Kris Statlander. Where are my notes here? Oh yes. The opening had Kris Statlander pretty much in control after a test of strength, and she does the standing moonsault. Megan Bayne lands a spear. And Statlander, in fact, is mostly in control until Penelope Ford comes in and does an AEW finish where the referee is distracted, but someone comes in to cost the person the match. And then we're ready to, and then Megan Bayne pins and wins the match. And after the match, so Penelope Ford and Megan, one thing at a time, Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne are officially like a duo. So that's something that's, it's been teased, but now we're really doing it this time, guys. It's really real now this time, guys. And Thunder Rosa comes in and Thunder Rosa then runs in because Penelope Ford is beating up on Statlander. So Rosa runs in with a chair, and there's the weirdest segment with the chair. And I don't know what was going on exactly, but it really looked weird, where she runs in with the chair, and Bayne and Ford are practically no-selling the fact that Rosa's there with the chair. I'm not saying they are. It looks like it. And I don't know if it's someone who forgot to do something. I don't know if something that wasn't clear. But at some point, Penelope Ford she grabs the chair and she's doing a tug of war with Rosa. And I'm like, what are we doing here? I was expecting Megan Bayne then to clock Rosa. Nothing happened. It was just really weird. It was just really, really weird. Anyway, the match is fine. Max Caster issues another open challenge for this collision. And, I'm still at the same point I was last week. Look, I told you, I thought this was really good. I think this is good if he comes in. Look, it takes a certain amount of self-awareness to do what he's doing here, to proclaim himself a great wrestler. And ironically, and then do the gimmick where he's ready to challenge anyone, but he loses. That's some self-awareness, where he knows he's not that great, where people don't want to see him, and he's leaning into it. Like it's some honky tonk man kind of shit, and that takes a a certain amount of self-awareness to be able to pull that off, instead of just being like a pro wrestler who thinks that they're great and they deserve to be in the main event. Like Max Caster is doing the opposite right now, and it's working. So then we get Ricochet, who comes to the ring, starts jaw-jacking until Prince Nana comes out. Ricochet is wearing the embassy robe, and Nana comes out to try and emotionally reach out to him so that he can give it back, saying, that the people who wore this word with honor. Are we referencing Jimmy Rave? I think we're referencing Jimmy Rave without actually saying his name here. I think that's what you're supposed to be getting. But Ricochet completely shuts him down, calls him an asshole or whatever. He dares Nana to take it, and he makes and Ricochet makes fun of him. Ricochet's heel gimmick is great. It works. I don't know what, we're clearly continuing the Swerve feud, but this has been really good so far. I've been enjoying it. And then finally, we get the AEW Revolution International Championship Series match where Orange Cassidy defeats Roderick Strong. They do some shtick at first with, Orange Cassidy rolling to the outside to give Kyle O'Reilly a hug, and then, exchanging a glare over to Adam Cole, who they have, Cassidy and Cole have history, so it's glad that they haven't abandoned that. And he goes, he does one of these comically. Then Roderick Strong rolls out of the ring to hug Kyle O'Reilly, and they get the shtick. It's one of your older style Orange Cassidy matches where you get the shtick out of the way at the start of the match, and then the rest is all business. And it was all business for the rest of the match. I like this match a lot. DDTs by Orange Cassidy, backbreakers by Roderick Strong. Orange Cassidy breaks out of the cloverleaf and follows it up by a kick, but then he eats more backbreakers and a sick kick by Roderick Strong, but it's not enough. Orange Cassidy wins the match with an orange punch. Good match. Good solid TV match. Good little main event. I give it 3.5 stars. Fine. After the match, Tony Schiavone comes out to interview Orange Cassidy. Before he can say anything, the Don Callis family comes out. Don Callis takes the mic and calls Orange Cassidy a red-headed hippie. Okay. And then Mark Davis and Kensuke Takeshita go after Cassidy. They beat them down. Callis gets a couple of his... gets a couple of shots in as well because, he's a sniveling piece of shit. But it's Kenny Omega who runs in to make the save, takes down Takeshita, and clears house, essentially. That allows Orange Cassidy some time to get back on his feet, where he fights off Takeshita and Mark Davis. I forgot to say Mark Davis was there as well. Did I say Mark Davis was there? I don't remember. If I already did, I apologize. I'm repeating myself, but it wouldn't be the first time that I repeat myself. So it is what it is, I guess. And then Kenny Omega holds up the international title. Then he locks eyes with Orange Cassidy. And that's how we end the show. That's how we end the show. So nonetheless, interest. I mean, the way the show ends here with Omega running in for the save and staring down Takeshita and the title and all of that, it's just confirms that everything that we set up here with this international series that was done at Grand Slam was dopey and goofy, because obviously the payoff is going to be Omega versus Takeshita. That's still the thing, and all of this is just like lame duck stuff to get there. Takeshita and Orange Cassidy has the potential to be a really good TV match. I'm excited to see it, but ultimately this is all a very long-winded way to get to destination. And I know about being long-winded. So, which is why I'm going to force myself to end the review here. Like I said, a good show overall that didn't grab me with the wrestling, which I think was a little disappointing. Wasn't a lot of wrestling. Sure, we got a lot of AEW shows recently with a lot of wrestling on it, but so it's like, well, we can do more angles this week, Warren. Well, do we? Do we really have to? Anyway. Yeah, like it was a good show, but emotionally didn't grab me, despite the fact that there's stuff on here that I really liked. Does that all make sense? I hope so. Leave a like on this video if you're watching it on YouTube, or a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, or a 5-star rating on Spotify. If you're watching this on Thursday, I'll be back later today with a live stream. Join us on YouTube for the live streams anytime you can, if you feel like it, if you'd like to. We'd like to have you around. Those are good times. Always always some nice times to spend with the great live chat with the Mr. Warren Hayes Show community, which is also at your fingertips if you join the Discord. Link is in the description. Otherwise, I'll be back next Wednesday for another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. So thank you all very much for watching. Go watch him, Randy Orton, and get back to me. I'll see you next time.